and welcome back to the Football Manager Premier League simulation. It is Season 2, 2023-24, and we come back on the 25th of June because that, as far as I'm aware, is the reset date within English football on Football Manager. So you can see league's been reset, we're in alphabetical order, back down to 0 games played. And we have our 3 promoted sides now into the league. Southampton, Blackburn and Millwall went down at the end of the 22-23 season. If you haven't seen Season 1, it's roughly about 2 hours. So if you need something a bit podcast style or you want to just sort of jump in and see certain bits, click through it, do go back and check it out. But for Season 2, we welcome in 2 sides that actually went down at the end of the first season, which we just quick simmed. Brentford are back. However, they are now under Carlos, I think it's Vicens. Not exactly sure how to say his name, but he is a member of the Manchester City backroom staff with Pep Guardiola. So that's gone pretty well for him, and he's done a really good job, actually. If we look at Brentford's managers so far, Thomas Frank was gone in February of the first season. He was replaced by Chris Wilder, who lasted only, 10 months before he was sacked in January. So I can't imagine that Brentford were in a particularly good position at that point. But Carlos Vicens comes in, turns it around, gets them promoted. They came... Is that first? No, it's second. They got second place last season. We also welcome back Norwich to the Premier League. Shock and awe as the Yo-Yo Club yo-yos. Dean Smith still in charge at Norwich. He has gone absolutely nowhere. And Norwich came only 6th last season. So they very much snuck in. I don't know why I've gone to registration. They very much snuck in. I want to go to schedule. And we'll have a look how they got on in the playoffs. They beat Bournemouth 4-3 on aggregate. That's a great tie right there. And then beat Fulham 3-1 at Wembley. That's the second season in a row that Fulham have gone to the playoff final and lost 3-1. They lost to Millwall last time. They lose to Norwich this time. We will see Fulham at some point. It's going to happen. But the other new team, and it's the first time in a while, when were Reading last in the Premier League? It was 2013. So we're 10 years on from the last time that Reading played Premier League football. They end up winning the championship title under Paunovic. I'm pretty sure Blackburn was the same thing. They last played in 2012 and they came up in 2022. So they had a 10-year gap. Now Reading have also had a 10-year gap, and they're back. So that seems to be a theme. If you've been gone for 10 years, you'll come back to the Premier League. But they are the 3 new sides. The only other thing I want to check... Actually, there's a couple of other things I want to check here. First is manager movements. Ignore that first one. That was last season. I don't know why that's showing up here. The one thing to note, Marcelo Bielsa has retired from management. He's decided he no longer wants to work with Spurs. He doesn't want to work with anyone. Bielsa is done. If we take a look at the favourite for the job, it's Thomas Tuchel. There's already been Chelsea and Manchester United manager in this save, potentially now becoming the Spurs boss. Don't believe there have been any other changes. There haven't, so just that one change in the summer so far managerially. And then we can get to... I didn't mean to go to this screen. I mean, this isn't a bad screen. We can see the big 4 transfers there. We'll go to just regular transfers. Obviously, 23-24 won't show anything because we've only just ticked over. But we'll take a look at some of the biggest transfers so far that happened before the league ticked over. So we get 3 straight away in our face. Firstly, welcome Vinicius Jr. to the Premier League with Chelsea. So they now have a front four of Vinicius, Mbappe, Lukaku, and Havertz. Oh my goodness. Okay then. Well, Chelsea are set for a pretty good period of time, aren't they? Under Massimo Allegri, they want to wrestle the title away. Vinicius is in for £95 million. Second on the list is Josko Vardiol. So Zidane deciding the defence needs some help. I mean, he's not wrong. He very much does. After an 8th place finish last season, I think it was, Manchester United, they go out. They bring in Josko Vardiol. And Arsenal, who made Champions League last season, coming in 4th, turn to Leicester and bring in Yuri Tielemans, who's 26 at this point. Creative midfielder, heck of a player. I can put this now. I am a Leicester fan, so as a Leicester fan, this hurts. But it's a very good move from Arsenal. It's a hell of a player. We'll see how he gets on. 4th highest transfer, as we saw on the transfer window screen, is actually somebody I didn't mention last season. Boubacar Kamara, who actually went to Newcastle at the start of the 2022 season on a free transfer, which is why we actually missed this one. Because obviously there was no value to it. It didn't show up when sorting by value. Did play 28 games last season. Was okay for Newcastle. But Spurs see him as the future. They splashed 60 million. And Newcastle now have even more money to work with. Have they done much with it yet? We already knew they signed Luka Dean. They've spent 40 million of it on Ergachan Shakir, the Leeds United goalkeeper, who we mentioned at the start of last season. Yeah, they bought him for £16.5 million. He played okay for a year, and they've managed to flip a £24 million profit on him. That is very impressive from Leeds. Well done on that move. You've got a heck of a profit out of that one. That was the next biggest transfer, so we've already covered that one. As we move down, we get to some Southampton players. Obviously, as we mentioned, Southampton surprisingly went down last season. Some teams are going to nip in to steal their players. Pedro is the biggest or the most expensive move. He heads to West Ham for £19 million. The Brazilian forward with 1 cap to his name. We also see Jan Bednarek moving as well. He's heading off to Wolves for £17.5 million. So they get a reasonably solid centre-back there. And also in the middle of that, we get Amar Dedic going from RB Salzburg to Chelsea, the Austrian left-back. Only 20 years of age, so we may not see him too much early on, but he could become a regular in that position. As we go down a little bit more, we'll see who else we come across. We find Arsenal buying Sebastian Coates. So Tielemans and Coates so far. Anybody else? Wendell also going to Arsenal from Manchester United, actually. That's another one that was not mentioned. Manchester United bought him for £24 million from Zenit. He only plays 6 times in a year and a half, and they lose that £10.5 million on his sale. That's not great. It seems very Manchester United, but it's not great. Has anyone else? Jake Cooper! Hey! I kept mentioning him about how well he was doing for Millwall last season. Led the league in a couple of important defensive stats. And he gets a move back into the Premier League instantly. He'll be playing for Brentford this season. Sebastian Haller is back in the Premier League. He'll be joining up with Sheffield United, who just seem to be signing a lot of strikers. That seems to be their big thing. Leeds using some of the Shakir money on Nadim Amiri from, was that Bayer Leverkusen? Yes, from Bayer Leverkusen. Not a bad little signing for just £12 million. As we'll get a couple more in. We see Stuart Armstrong leaving Southampton for Arsenal. That feels a little bit of a strange transfer. I don't know why Arsenal really need Stuart Armstrong. Just listed as a squad player at 31 years of age. That seems a bit of a weird move, but we also get Kyle Walker going from Manchester City to Liverpool. He's now 33 years of age. Manchester City get around £10 million for him. That feels like a bit of a strange transfer, but gives Liverpool a bit of experience. Walker has won, 3 titles in a row now with Manchester City, or 2 titles in a row. So, I guess, 3 titles in a row. So Liverpool trying to get that title-winning mentality back into their team. Because obviously, the last time they won, it was 1920. Chelsea's last win was the 16-17 season. They look like they mean business. But we're going to come back in the middle of August. We're going to see if any other managerial changes happen. I can't imagine there'd be too many before the start of the season at this point. And we'll also have a look at any other transfers that go down and just broadly go over some stuff as we get to the start of the season. So we're back in the middle of August and we're on the start of the 2023-24 Premier League season. I thought the first thing we'd take a quick look at is the season preview. Manchester City are the favourites at almost evens odds, so seems like they might be getting a 4th title in a row. Chelsea have shifted up into 2nd place. Obviously, we saw the big move to bring in Vinicius. We will have a look to see if any more has gone out. By the way, transfer activity, £1.56 billion already, and Manchester United over £200 million spent. And yet, only predicted 4th, with Newcastle in 5th. So I think they have invested a lot of their money already. Arsenal 6th, Liverpool 3rd, I'm not sure I actually mentioned them. And then we get down to the bottom of the league and we see the 3 newly promoted sides, as you normally do with FM. Reading, Norwich and Brentford. Reading the biggest outsider, despite winning the championship. But as we look at the other teams down there, Palace and Sheffield United are not given a great amount of hope. Brighton and Burnley and Leeds are maybe considered in there as well. Everton only in 12th feels quite low for them, but we'll see how they get on. I feel like they've been fairly quiet in this save so far, as have Wolves. There has been a couple of managerial sackings with Wolves, but other than that, they've kind of just been mid-table throughout. And the quick-eyed amongst you on that previous screen may have seen in the new managers tab, we've had the regular FM swap between Pep Guardiola and Jurgen Klopp. Guardiola let his contract run down at Manchester City. He moved on. And Jurgen Klopp was hired by Manchester City from Liverpool. Klopp just has no loyalty for Liverpool in FM for some reason. But Liverpool go out and they just pick up Pep Guardiola. He's literally right there. So why would they not? Though that was only 4 days ago. So Guardiola's not really had the time to build his squad yet. And then we get to the transfers that have happened since our stop-off point towards the back end of June. It is just all the transfers that you can see on this screen because, like I said, 25th of June is the league reset day. So everything in this page is after that point. And we see the biggest transfer of the window so far. It even beats the Vinicius Junior transfer, Alexander Isak from Real Sociedad to Manchester United for almost £100 million. So they bring in Josko Vardiol to try and solidify the defence, and they bring in Alexander Isak as their new star front man, listed as important player. We'll see how many goals he can get this season. As we nip down Newcastle then with the next 2 transfers. Roger Ibanez, a Brazilian centre-back from Roma for £57 million, only 24 years of age. I mean, he looks really good, doesn't he? He's not going to be 57 million if he didn't. But they also spend £57 million on, This could be fun. And Baronetsia. I'm sorry, Spanish people. But he gets a big money move from Sociedad. Only 21 years of age. Left or right wing, depending on how Newcastle want to use him. Already listed as an important player. Looks like he could be a really big star of the future. We then get to the biggest transfer out of the Premier League. Jack Grealish leaves Manchester City for Real Madrid. And Man City lose £45 million on that transfer within 2 seasons of it happening. He makes 36 Premier League appearances, 10 goals, 5 assists. Played pretty well when he played, but Man City's squad just too stacked to allow Grealish to play enough. He's off to Real Madrid. We get Manchester United in on Nicolo Ravella, 21-year-old Italian midfielder from Juventus. And again, a player that can develop into an absolute star. Could be a star already, to be honest, for just under £50 million. We get Naby Keita leaving to Atletico Madrid. Andrea Belotti, who was at Arsenal, he's off to Napoli for just over £40 million. Interesting transfer here. James Ward-Prowse does leave a Championship Southampton. He's heading to Leicester, so he's the Yuri Tielemans replacement for just under £40 million. So Leicester still have a decent amount of that money left over. Though I say that, and I notice Nuno Santos, 28-year-old from Sporting Lisbon, winger. I know they had Harvey Barnes was actually loaned out last season to Manchester United. So I'm not sure whether that had a permanent deal attached to it, because it seemed like a very weird move at the time. I assume Barnes has gone to United permanently, and Nuno Santos is his replacement. They've got a bit older with the replacements, though, because Tielemans 26, Barnes is probably like 24, 25, and the 2 replacements are both 28, I think. Is Ward-Prowse 28? I believe he is. Yeah, Ward-Prowse is 28 as well. So they have gone a little bit older with the replacements. Wolves able to sell on Adama Traore for £38 million to Atalanta. They've done pretty well there. Atalanta using the money they got for Koopmeiners, who has gone to Manchester United. Looking down the list, Javi Galan, 28-year-old left-back, heading to Manchester City, considered a regular starter. Yeah, there's the Harvey Barnes transfer. How old is Barnes? He's 25. He makes a permanent move to Manchester United. We'll see how much he plays. He's listed as a squad player, so hopefully at least a few appearances. Actually, Leicester have kind of made 2 replacements. They brought in Luis Sinisterra as well from Feyenoord, 24, so a younger replacement there. Actually, Leicester have been very busy. Jerome Ongwene out the door to RB Leipzig for £23 million. How much did they spend on him from RB Salzburg? £4.4 million. So he goes from an RB side to Leicester to another RB side. I don't think Leicester was supposed to get involved in that. It's also pushed the price up for Leipzig, so they'll be slightly frustrated on that one. We welcome Fabio Carvalho into the Premier League. He will be playing for Brentford. So Brentford splashing over £20 million on a player. We get Villa splashing 21.5 on Isaac Shabangu from Anderlecht, a 20-year-old DR Congo winger. Very quick, but still a little bit of development to go, but is only 20. Yeah, Abel Ruiz is Brighton's new front man. He's a striker, isn't he? Yeah, 23-year-old striker coming in from Sporting Braga. Leeds go Turkish again in the goalkeeper route. It worked so well last year. Why not do it again? This time it's Ersin Destinoglu from Besiktas for just under £20 million. So they've used just under half the money they got for Shakir and spend it on Destinoglu, who can become their first choice keeper straight away. Maybe they can get a massive profit on him too. I probably won't mention too many other transfers. I'll just scroll down a bit so you can see them personally. If there are any that stand out, we've got Ben Davies leaving for Sevilla. He does a bit of a Kieran Trippier move. We've got Jack Stacey into the league with Brighton. Harry Pickering gets back into the league. He's in with Reading after his one Premier League season with Blackburn. Brandon Williams leaves to Atletico Madrid. And we're getting sort of lower value transfers here. Andy Zakiri off to Southampton, so he goes to the Championship. There was an exchange in there. It was actually Kyle Walker-Peters. So Brighton pick up Walker-Peters, so we'll see him. This is an interesting one, actually. Eddie Nketiah going to Burnley. So Arsenal obviously deciding that he's not going to be their future, and they let him go. We'll see how he gets on. I think the last one to mention, Joe Bursick, young English goalkeeper, will be heading to Crystal Palace as a player exchange in there as well. Caden Rodney will be heading the other way to Stoke. Actually, Said Benrahma leaves West Ham as well. Outside of that, we can come back at the end of the transfer window. We'll have 2 or 3 Premier League games down. There won't be too much to look into in the table, but we'll have a last look at any of the transfers that go down in this next sort of 3-week period and catch up there. So we're now on to the 5th of September. We've just got into the first international break and the transfer window is now closed. First things first, though, we're going to have a very quick look at the European groups. So Europa Conference League, the Premier League interest is Aston Villa in this one. They get Group C with Hearts, Maccabi Tel Aviv and Gil Vicente, a Portuguese team that I am very not familiar with. So well done to them for making Europe. I would imagine that Villa could do relatively well in this group. Tel Aviv's always a tricky game. Hearts could be interesting. I don't know what's going on with them, whether they've got some good regens or something, or just made some good transfers. And then Gil Vicente are very much the wild card in that group. We then get into the Europa League, where there are 2 Premier League sides. First, we look at Newcastle, who came 5th last season, so they qualified on league position. They get Group B alongside Villarreal, Shakhtar, Soligorsk and Besiktas. It's a little bit of a tricky group. Villarreal, we know what they can do. Recent winners of the Europa League, actually, over Manchester United. Besiktas, always tricky to go to Turkey and get a result, and just a pretty solid side, really, for the Europa League. And I'm pretty sure they made the final last year and lost to Barcelona. So they are going to be a very tricky game. Shakhtar Soligorsk, always tricky to go to Eastern Europe. So they could pose a little bit of a problem in the away fixture. Overall, I think Newcastle might struggle a bit. I mean, they've made so many transfers, spent so much money, you'd think they should get through. But Villarreal and Besiktas are going to be very tricky little games. The other Premier League representative is West Ham, having won the FA Cup last season. They go into Group G with Napoli, Anderlecht and Metalist Kharkiv. Or Kharkiv. Again, pronunciations have changed with Ukrainian sides, so if I don't get it 100% right, I do apologise. But this is a very tricky group for West Ham. Napoli, always a very solid side. Anderlecht normally end up building some pretty good teams, so it might be a tricky one for West Ham. I'm saying maybe 2nd or 3rd. I think they should get through still. I think it's going to be sort of between them and Anderlecht for 2nd place. Group may well look like this by the end. And then finally, the Champions League, where there are the regular 4 Premier League sides. We start with Arsenal, who came 4th last season. They get Group A alongside PSG, Zenit and Ludogorets. As I mentioned, always tricky going to Eastern Europe, so to have 2 of those ties is not great. Also, PSG are PSG, though they don't have any of Mbappe or Haaland, which they normally have at least one of them in an FM save. So they might not be quite the same team. I think Arsenal should get through. I'll probably say second behind PSG. If we look to Group B, we find Chelsea, who came third last season, if I'm correct. I'm already forgetting. They get Ajax, Real Sociedad, and Dynamo Kiev. I think Real Sociedad could be the outside shot to top that group just because of how much money they've brought in and spent this season. I haven't looked at the transfers, but surely they've spent a good portion of that money. Ajax are always a team that I seem to find in the last 16, so that will be a tricky little fixture. Dynamo Kiev, again, Eastern Europe's tricky. I see Chelsea topping that group with the likes of Mbappe, Vinicius, Lukaku and Havertz, as I've mentioned before. So I think they will top that one despite everything. As we scroll down, we find Liverpool, the team that came second in the Premier League last season. Group F for them, with a traumatic experience of Bayern Munich, who knocked them out in the quarterfinals last season. They're also alongside Lazio and Monaco. So 4 of the big 5 leagues represented in that group. I think they should get through. I don't think Lazio or Monaco will pose too many issues. So I'm going to say it may well look like this, actually. The order it's in now may well be the end order. And then we get to the Premier League winners, the Champions League winners of last season, Manchester City. They take Group G alongside Real Madrid, RB Salzburg, and Borussia Mönchengladbach. They always seem to get Gladbach in the Champions League groups. I don't know how, but it's happened again. They should kind of sweep past them. RB Salzburg, tricky team, but they seem to have lost quite a few of their young stars. So I think they should be relatively easy to get past as well. Real Madrid, I think Manchester City knocked out Real Madrid in the last 16 last year. So I'm going to predict Man City to win that one. I think all 4 teams will get through as they normally do in FM. But let's get back to the Premier League. And so 3 games into the season, this is how the Premier League looks early on. It is Chelsea who lead the way with a +6 goal difference. They are tied on points with Manchester City, Leicester and Liverpool. Leicester getting off to that good start again. Let's see if they can actually keep it going this time. Chelsea's goal difference, a massive +6. Where's that come from? It's come from a massive 5-0 win over Reading, who sadly sit bottom of the league because of that result. They do have a point, however. They actually got a draw with Leicester. So Leicester's only drop points on the season are to Reading. I'm pretty sure Leicester dropped like 4 points to Millwall last season. They seem to just be really polite to the teams that come up and just give them points. But looking at how it looks, I don't think there's anything too out of place. I mean, Everton are up in 6th early doors. Brentford up in 9th in their first season back after a year away. Norwich have had 3 straight draws, including a home draw with Liverpool and a 3-3 at the Emirates. I think I said last season that Arsenal would be a really entertaining team to watch. It seems they've actually taken it into this season. Though they are only 10th, Villa 11th. It's Palace and Sheffield United who fill the relegation spots so far. But like we said, only 3 games in. We'll take more of a deep dive into that when we get to the November stop-off point, because we'll have plenty more games done by then. The only other thing to check in on really is any more transfers, and we immediately spot one high up. Pep's starting to make some moves. We said he came in late. He came in just 4 days before the start of the Premier League season. He makes the move to get his new playmaker at Liverpool, Ruben Neves from Wolves. 220 appearances for Wolves. And he was a stalwart, playing really, really well for them in a side that was, like I said earlier, just kind of bobbing along in the middle of the Premier League. So he gets his big move to a title challenger. What else can we see? We find Rafinha moving to Newcastle. So they get Benedetsia and Rafinha as wingers. They also get Justin Kluivert on deadline day. How many wingers do you need, Newcastle? They saw the question, how many wingers do you need, and just said yes. If we look at an out, Diogo Jota is off to Inter Milan, or has gone to Inter Milan. That was on deadline day as well. So a little bit of a clear out from Pep as well since he's come in. Keita was before Pep arrived. What else can we see? It is a clear out from Pep because Roberto Firmino's gone to PSG as well. So he's moving people on. Brighton making £33 million on selling Marc Cucurella to Real Sociedad. So there we go. There is Sociedad starting to build a little bit of a squad. Get Mykola Shaparenko moving from Dynamo Kiev to Chelsea, £27 million for him. Leicester lose Kaglos Soyuncu to Barcelona for £27 million. Okay, Leicester just raking in the cash in this window. Brighton decide to use a majority of the Cucurella money on Ozan Kabak from Galatasaray. Obviously, we've seen him a couple of times in the Premier League now. We've seen him with Liverpool and currently Norwich. Only loan spells then. He gets a permanent move to Brighton, so we'll see how he gets on there. We'll scroll down and we'll sort of take a look at anything else that stands out. Leicester's selling more players. Iheanacho's gone. Mahrez has gone to Real Sociedad, so again, they are building. Anything else stand out? We'll scroll down. You're looking more at the late August ones because you'll have seen the earlier transfers. Daniel Braganza leaves Tottenham. And as we sort of keep going down, Tino Livramento. Actually, that one would have been there before. That's 13th of August. I just missed that one. But Livramento has gone to Wolves. He's left Southampton. Galeno has joined Leeds. And yeah, we'll just kind of keep rolling down a little bit. Any transfers that stand out. But that is where we'll hold it on the September stop-off. Once again, this is how it looks. Lukaku, top scorer so far. Ward-Prowse, most assists. Livramento in there as well. So the ex-Southampton players standing out. Pickford and Alisson leading the Golden Glove charge. But we'll get into November and we'll have a look at how it's going by that point. We're now here on the 7th of November. Only 7 more games into the Premier League season. I don't know why I thought it would be more than that. We've had, well, the international break that we were in at the last stop-off. There's been another one in October. There's about to be another one after, I think, this set of fixtures. But this is how the Premier League looks through 10 games. Manchester City, now under Jurgen Klopp, lead the way on 24 points from Newcastle in second place on 21 under Eddie Howe. Newcastle flying high. I mean, they've spent a lot of money, so you kind of expect it. Trailing behind them, Chelsea, Manchester United and Liverpool all on 20. It's nice to see Villa and West Ham still doing really well despite European football on their plate as well. Leicester drop off again because shock and horror. That seems to keep happening. Tottenham down in 11th. Actually, by the way, never confirmed. It was on the manager page when we looked at it right at the beginning of the season in August. Thomas Tuchel was appointed Tottenham manager. I didn't actually mention that one. It was just there. He's having a torrid time with Spurs now as well. 13 points from the first 10 games. 4 points off Europe in general. As we get down towards the bottom of the league, Brentford got off to a really good start. I think they've got 1 point in their last 7 games, which was a 2-2 draw with Leeds. It's gone a bit wrong there. Reading have not won a Premier League game yet, so their last win was in 2013. They're doing a Millwall. 4 draws though. All 1-1. They've had a draw with Villa, Burnley and Leeds since. Everton have dropped off a little bit. They've only picked up 6 points in their last 7 games. The league looking... I think Newcastle are probably the most standout team. Palace still in the bottom 3. Sheffield United and Norwich kind of just surviving right now. If we look at manager movements, we can see nothing has happened so far. No one's gone. no one's come in, which is nice. But what we can do is we can start to get into some stats now we're 10 games in. As you can see, form-wise, Newcastle lead the way, although actually Manchester City have actually picked up... No, that's 11, isn't it? I can't count. There's 2 draws in there. So Newcastle have picked up the most points in the last 5 games. If we scroll down to goals, Manchester City lead the way with 23, followed by Chelsea on 22. So there's not been a crazy amount of goal scoring. I mean, Man City averaging 2.3, Chelsea 2.2. At least with it being 10 games, it's quite easy to average it out. Reading and Brentford with the least at just 6 each. If we look at expected goals, we actually find Spurs and Manchester United at the top. Manchester City just 5th with around, well, round it up, 16 expected goals compared to their 23 actual goals. So they're being very clinical. Spurs an XG of about 19, and they've scored 17, which is not what you expect from the likes of Kane and Son, but there we go. They're not finishing very well at all. Down the bottom of the expected goals for, we find, Norwich actually, on just 8. How many goals have they scored? They've scored 11, so Norwich actually been a lot more clinical this season, which is good for them. If we look into conceded, we find Manchester City with just 5 goals conceded. It just seems to be a Jurgen Klopp thing, because Liverpool were leading this stat by a mile last season, and now Manchester City into an early lead on it with Klopp in charge. We see Liverpool and Manchester United conceding 8 each. Newcastle and West Ham conceding just 10. So West Ham riding their defence right now to get up into 8th position. If we look at most goals conceded, we find Reading with 21, Burnley with 20, and Norwich and Spurs 19 goals conceded each. So we can see what Spurs' issue is. It's defensively. Expected goals against is actually led by Burnley at 17.3, followed by Newcastle at almost 17 expected goals. How many have they actually conceded? They've only conceded 10. So Newcastle riding their luck a little bit. Reading up here with Brentford. If we look at the bottom, Manchester City and Manchester United at around about the 10 mark. Leicester around about the 10.5 mark. So if we get into some player detail stats, we find 4 players tied for top scorer on 6 goals each. We find Salah, Haaland, Lukaku, and the new boy Alexander Isak on 6 as well. So not too bad from them. Raul Jimenez is here again, age 32. He's got 5 in 9. Along with Gabriel Barbosa, Luis Sinisterra with 5 for Leicester in his first season, and Wout Weghorst up on 5 with Burnley because he just does well in FM. We head to expected goals, we find Weghorst on almost 6, so he's actually slightly behind, and Ivan Toney at 5.2. Where's Ivan Toney on the list? Is he even here? I don't think he's even here. He's not, so he's got 3 maximum. He should be doing better than he actually is. Look at shots on target. We've got Wout Weghorst leading that one with 25 as well. We can see some other names here. Odsonne Edouard, a name we saw a couple of times last season. Umar Sadiq, a name we found last year as well. If we head down to assists, that is still led by James Ward-Prowse. He had 4 in the first 3 games. He's added 3 more since. He's up to 7. Harry Kane, surprisingly, with 6 assists, but still playing up front seemingly. He's not the one putting the ball in the net. He's got 3 goals on the season and 6 assists. He's up to 188 Premier League goals. Will he catch Shearer? Maybe not. He is now 30. I'm not sure that's going to happen, but we find Yuri Tielemans in 3rd with 5 assists. We can get to key passes. We find Kylian Mbappe leading the way on 22. along with 3 assists for him, Bruno Fernandes, and then a list of Timothy Castan, Christian Eriksen, and Calvin Phillips making an appearance for the first time in this save. More as a holding midfielder. Actually has no assists, but is playing very, very well. Has done for Leeds throughout this save. We see John Swift here for Reading. Mark Albrighton playing for Burnley is up there with some key passes as well. If we actually look at just flat out chances created, we find Erling Haaland topping that one with 7 and Kai Havertz with 6, and then a bunch of players at 5, which include Harry Pickering again. The man is just a chance creator, and no one puts them away. You just find him a team that can actually score goals, please. We can also look at the defensive side. So we look at the tackles won is being led by Takahiro Tomiyasu by 1 over Tariq Lamptey. A couple of guys we saw high up in stats last season as well. We then find key tackles. We've got a few guys in here. Vestergaard. Hector Bellerin has joined Newcastle. When did that one happen? The 22-23 season. I missed that one. He's playing really well this season. Was kind of average in the back half of last season. Doing well this year, though. We got key headers. We've got a couple guys. Roger Ibanez, the new centre-back at Newcastle, alongside Ruben Diaz in that one. Interceptions being led by Norwich's Francisco Ortega, the left-back who came in this window from Southampton. Again, a lot of Southampton players have moved on because they got relegated. Blocks been led by Guillermo Barro. Clearances is Joachim Anderson and Willie Orban, who's gone from Leipzig to Burnley, which is quite an interesting one. And then we get to the goalkeepers to round out the stats section. Ederson, 10 games, just 5 conceded. Alisson with 7 conceded, along with Jordan Pickford, who has actually missed a game at some point. Then we get Onana and Areola on 8 each, so not too bad for them. It's a minimum 3 games played. However, it does seem to just be showing the starting goalkeepers, which is good. Schmeichel's conceded a lot more than he did last year. He's up at 16 already. If we head into clean sheets, Ederson, the front runner, 6 in 10. But then we do find Alphonse Areola and Erguson Sakir with 4 each. Saves held, we've got Angus Gunn as Reading's goalkeeper with 15. Pickford at 13, Pope at 12. Saves parried, David Raya at 31. He's not holding much, but he's making saves, I guess. And then Nick Pope and Jose Sarr are there. Joe Bursick he's played every game, actually. Bursick is the new Crystal Palace goalkeeper, which is nice to see. And so final little bit. Conceded per 90, Ederson, just 0.5 goals per 90. Alisson at 0.77. We look at the ones under 1. I mean, Sakir is exactly at 1, but Areola, Onana, Pickford also under 1 as well. So Areola having a very good season. Big reason why West Ham are going so well. But the next stop-off point we have will be, I'm not sure if I can't remember if it's exactly New Year's Day, but it's somewhere at the beginning of January where the window will open. Will be around the halfway point of the Premier League season, so we'll get a better idea of how things are going then. So we're now on to January 2nd. The transfer window is now open, but it also means that the European groups have concluded. We're going to take a look at the Conference League first, since there is representation with Aston Villa. They top the group very convincingly, 7 points ahead of Hearts, who actually get through. I thought it'd be Tel Aviv, so that slightly surprised me. There was a loss for Villa. They actually lost 1-0 to Hearts at Villa Park, which is a surprising result. But they get through pretty comfortably. It means they will skip the first knockout round, so we won't know who they will be taking on, or do we? No, the draw's not done until 1st of March, is that? Okay. That's quite a way away. So we'll find out later down the road who Villa will face. We then get to Premier League representation in the Europa League, and Newcastle actually dominating their group, which has really surprised me. And the runners-up of last year's competition are out in the group stage. Besiktas go out. Villarreal get through by a point, but Newcastle dominant. 5-0 and 4-0 over Shakhtar Sologorsk. I maybe slightly overrated them. But 2 wins over Villarreal and 1 3-0 win at home against Besiktas. A 0-0 draw away from home there. But Newcastle go storming through. They'll skip the first knockout round as well, so we won't know who they play yet. We get down to West Ham. They do get through, but it's second place. So we can actually look who they're going to face. They'll face someone dropping down from the Champions League, so that'll be quite an interesting tie to look at. They do finish behind Napoli, which I did predict would happen, but they actually were comfortably ahead of Anderlecht by 5 points. There was a loss. The loss was actually to Anderlecht. So it's surprising that there was such a big gap between the two sides. They managed to get 2 draws with Napoli, which were very helpful. They did win the home game against Anderlecht and a couple of wins over Metalist Kharkiv, who I'm assuming beat Anderlecht. Yeah, that was the really big helping hand. If we look at the first knockout round, West Ham will play Zenit, who come from, I believe, Group A in the Champions League. So we know that they did not go through. I'm assuming that was Arsenal and PSG. But West Ham will face Zenit in the first knockout round. And then finally, the Champions League. Group A goes very much as I assumed it would. PSG top it fairly comfortably. Was the draw with Arsenal? No, it was with Zenit. So Arsenal lose both games against PSG, a 3-1 and a 1-0. However, they did turn 3 wins. They actually won 3-0 in Zenit. The draw was actually the home game against them. And then they turned the 2 wins over Le Degrets. So Arsenal get through in second place. They will have to play a group topper. Chelsea through in Group B, though they do lose a game to Ajax. Real Sociedad, the side going through alongside them. We scroll down, we find that Liverpool are out of the Champions League. I didn't even notice that. So they have a Europa League knockout game. We need to go back and check that. See, I completely upped and blanked that. I was too busy looking at the West Ham one. Yeah, here are Liverpool. They'll play Bayer Leverkusen in the first knockout round of the Europa League. And that's not an easy tie in itself. But I am remarkably surprised. Liverpool go out. Lazio get through. Just 6 points from the group. Only the 1 win, which was over Lazio. Monaco able to hold Liverpool to 2 draws. Lazio getting the draw in the home fixture for them. And then Bayern Munich just proving an invincible force, except to Lazio. That was a huge result. Lazio sneaked the spot over Liverpool. Manchester City, just the casual 6 for 6. I was going to say they didn't concede a goal. They actually conceded 2 in the away leg against Real Madrid. Still won 3-2 though. Man City waltzed through. If we look at the knockout stage, so we're now just looking for 3 teams. Arsenal will play Barcelona. We've seen a lot of English teams playing Barcelona. And this actually happened, was it the last 16 of the Europa League? And Barcelona won. So we'll see how that one plays out in a little revenge fixture for Arsenal. Chelsea will face Lazio, who got through ahead of Liverpool. So that will be an intriguing one. And Manchester City face the sort of new big boys in Real Sociedad. Man City should advance through that one, but they will be a tricky little fixture. And now it's back to the Premier League, and we're actually a decent amount further into the season. We're sort of 9/10 games further through. Manchester City still lead the way by 3 points, but it's now over Liverpool and then Chelsea in third. So the same top 3 as we've seen a lot. Well, for this first 2 seasons anyway. Manchester United actually getting themselves into 4th, though they have played a game more and are still 6 points behind. They are 1 point ahead of Newcastle, though if you notice here, oh, that's 2nd of March. I don't know why that's showing up. Anyway, 2nd of March, Man United Newcastle should be a big game. Arsenal trailing in behind, though they do have a game in hand to get within 3 points of Newcastle. Leeds up in 7th. I did say I thought Alfred Schroeder could do well. Kind of a quiet first season, but he's got them going now in this second year. Spurs trying to recover a little bit here, though Tuchel is gone. He is not finding a place to stay. He voluntarily left Chelsea to join Man United, got sacked, has been hired by Spurs, and been sacked. So it's going very wrong for Tuchel in this save. We look at the bottom half of the league, Reading and Palace with just one win each. Reading finally get a win. They actually win at Brighton 2-1. Crystal Palace just the one win. That was a 3-1 over Burnley. Has David Moyes been sacked? Nope. He's still there. The late season heroics of last year not forgotten. Burnley actually in the bottom 3. They were going relatively well last season, but not this year. Sean Dyche still in charge. We will take a look at any managerial movements. So if we look slightly further down, the first manager gone was Carlos Vicente from Brentford, but it wasn't a sacking. He's decided to move on to Athletic Bilbao in La Liga, and he's been replaced by Mark van Bommel, who's left PSV to become Brentford manager. A lot of Dutch managers in their mid-40s coming over at the moment. We'll see how Van Bommel gets on with Brentford. They are just above the relegation zone. Thomas Tuchel, as we mentioned, sacked not too long ago, actually. Paul Bracewell is still the caretaker manager. So if we look at the job centre, yes. So we look at Spurs. Roberto Mancini is the massive favourite. Currently Roma manager. Looks like he could be on his way to the new White Hart Lane. And then Reading, bottom of the league, didn't sack Paunovic, though. He decided to leave to go and manage Real Betis. So La Liga is just stealing the newly promoted managers. Steve Cooper has come in from Nottingham Forest, and he's going to try and see what he can do with Reading. Gets his first Premier League managerial job. Outside of that, I mean, Villa are still around Europe. Leicester have hung around better than they did last time. Again, Everton and Wolves just mid-table. West Ham have dropped off a little bit. If we look briefly at the stats, we'll get more into it at the March stop-off. Lukaku still leads the way in goals, or he's back in the lead of goals. He was high up at the beginning of September. He's with 13, Haaland one behind on 12, and Alexander Isak, the new signing for Manchester United, he's on 11. Ward-Prowse leading assists still, he's up at 10. And now it's Mbappe on 8. So Mbappe assisting more than he's scoring, really. And Harry Kane on 8. Pickford, most player of the matches, at 7, with Alisson and Ederson tied for most clean sheets at 11. Pickford back there on 7. Yellow cards, João Moutinho leads the way. But the next stop-off is going to be March. We'll take a look, or it might be... No, it's not March. It's February, because we're going to take a look at the January transfer window, see who goes where. There won't be too much to update league-wise, and it's mostly just going to be the transfers, really. We're now at the end of the January transfer window. There's been sort of 4 or 5 more league games. Lukaku pulling away, now with 18 goals, and Mbappe jumps in front with 12 assists. Those two combining beautifully once again. Alisson and Ederson, more clean sheets. Here's a transfer that I kind of missed. Frank Kessie at Tottenham. When did that happen? That's why I missed it. It was another free transfer. Actually, at the start of the 22-23 season, he's been playing really well for Spurs, and I've only noticed him because of yellow cards. Well, Frank Kessie's in the Premier League. But the main reason we have stopped off here is to look at transfers. We'll have a quick look at manager movements. I don't think there have been any. There have not. So not too many manager issues through this season so far. Only about 3 actually during the season. And we're at the beginning of February, so not a whole lot happening. The main reason is to dig into the transfers. We are looking for 2024, and we find our first one with Arthur Theat from Bologna to Tottenham. Spurs know that they have got a lot to do. Actually, who's their manager? No one. It's still Paul Bracewell. Is it going to be Bracewell till the end of the year and then Mancini takes over? Job centre. Yeah, the job isn't here anymore. The Spurs job's not available, but Paul Bracewell is still in charge. I'm assuming Mancini's going to come in, but they're waiting until the end of next season. That is a very interesting move with half a season left to go. But Arthur Theat is the biggest move, second to another Belgian centre-back, Sebastian Bonau from Wolfsburg, makes a big, nearly £40 million move to Liverpool. Only sort of played half the games in the 22-23 season, but played very well. More appearances this year for Wolfsburg in the first half of the season. Now gets his move to Liverpool. Van Dijk replacement, potentially? This may well be what that is. Otavio, who was one of the early signings in this simulation, is now out of the Premier League. He's off to Atletico Madrid for £39 million. We see Marcus Antonio joining Liverpool. So this very much is a Pep Guardiola rebuild. 23-year-old from Shakhtar Donetsk has already made 3 appearances in the Premier League since he came over. We see Ibrahima Konate leaving Liverpool for Real Madrid. Pep's going mental. He is rebuilding big time. Newcastle making more signings. They bring in Tyrell Malacia, a Dutch left-back from Feyenoord. So Newcastle still trying to make their push for potentially Champions League football. Emi Buendia leaves. He's gone to Atletico Madrid, so we'll see how that affects Aston Villa. We'll scroll down again. We'll find a few more little 2024 transfers. Alessio Romagnoli has left Arsenal for Inter. Don't think he spent too long at Arsenal. He didn't. Came in on a free in 2022-23. Played a decent amount of games, playing okay. Again, not playing too much this season, doing all right. They make a £25 million profit on him. It sounds like good business to me. Lucas Torreira has left Liverpool for Roma. Again, missed him joining Liverpool, but there we go. We get Sebastian Vegas, another Southampton player leaving, although this one in January. He's gone to Aston Villa. So is that the Buendia replacement? No, because he's a centre-back. There's also a player exchange in there. Ben Christine goes the other way. We see Juan Musso coming in to Leicester. So we said that Leicester have made a lot of money. Looks like they're getting ready to replace Kasper Schmeichel. And in fact, they're already calling him the first choice. And he's already played 2 games. So I think Schmeichel's time at Leicester may well be over. Juan Musso is the new man in goal at the King Power. West Ham bringing in Philip Kostic. Moise Keane! That was fast! He left Everton for Juventus on a permanent deal. Aston Villa bring him back for a potential £21 million. Lloyd Kelly didn't spend long at Southampton. I think that's only a year. He's just working the South Coast. From Bournemouth to Southampton and now to Brighton. So Brighton using the money that they've brought in on a couple of sales. We see Japet Tanganga heading to the Bundesliga. Davinson Sanchez to Leicester. Okay. So yeah, Leicester really using some of the money here in the January transfer window. We see Pierre-Emile Højbjerg makes his way over to France. Callum Wilson leaves Newcastle to join Leeds. Oh, is he a popular player in this? This is an interesting one. Julian Alvarez has left Manchester City. The Argentine wonder kid hasn't really panned out. He's ended up going to RB Leipzig for just £12.75 million. So not a whole lot going on there. We see Leeds a couple times where that was a summer transfer window. They do bring in Jefferson Soteldo, a Venezuelan winger from the Mexican League. Outside of that, we see Axel Disasi, we see Gabriel Menino. Max Aarons leaves Chelsea for Monaco. That was such a weird transfer that I didn't understand in any way. Burnley bringing in a player in Almaz Ali, a Qatari striker from Lyon. Josip Bracalo's actually in the Premier League as well. But that is how the January transfer window has run. This is how the league looks in February. Our next stop-off point is going to be the beginning of April, where we'll do a European rundown, we'll do any managerial movements, and we'll dive into the player stats, as well as just seeing how the table stands. So we are now back here on April 2nd, 2 months later, and we're going to take a quick rundown of Europe once again, now that some of the knockout stages have really gotten underway. We check in the Europa Conference League with Aston Villa, and they are still going. They came in at the second knockout round after winning their group in the group stage, and they had just a belter of a second round knockout tie with Club Brugge, coming through it 5-4 in the end. They head into the quarterfinals to take on German opposition in Hoffenheim, who came through past Viktoria Pilsen 5-3. Looking at some of the other teams, Villa and Hoffenheim, I don't think it's just a straight up-down, is it? I don't think it will be AZ or Roma in the semi-finals should they get past Hoffenheim. It might be. I'm not exactly sure how that whole works. In the Europa League, we have 3 English sides to look out for. Newcastle, West Ham and Liverpool dropping down from the Champions League. As you can see from the quarter-final ties, they are all still in, and they've evaded each other so far in the draw. Liverpool came through 4-1 against Bayer Leverkusen, so a little bit more simple than I expected. They then had more German opposition in Wolfsburg, dispatch them 4-0. They now face Valencia in the quarterfinals. West Ham also came in at the first knockout round stage. They actually got past Zenit 4-0, which is a lot easier than I expected them to do that. And then they took out Napoli 2-1, which is a very, very impressive result there for the Hammers. They take on PSV in the quarterfinals. Newcastle came in at the second knockout round after winning their group. They faced Olympiacos and skinnier teeth stuff, 4-3 over them. But they have to face Porto in the quarterfinals, who have looked very ominous so far going through the knockout stages. So it's going to be very interesting to see that one. I think Liverpool should get through. I think West Ham really should get through. Newcastle's maybe the question mark. But we could get an all-English Europa League final for the first time since, I think, Arsenal-Chelsea when it was in Baku, I think. And 3 Premier League representatives in the Champions League. The instant one, Arsenal are out in the last 16 phase to Barcelona again. It happened in the Europa League last season. It happens in the Champions League this time. Arsenal out to Barcelona in the knockout stage. However, Manchester City and Chelsea keep the Premier League representation alive. Man City go 5-2 over Real Sociedad. Same scoreline for Chelsea going over Lazio. Man City will face Barcelona. Chelsea face PSG in the quarterfinals. And we're back with the Premier League table. Manchester City, 4 points clear of Chelsea. It's looking like 4 titles in a row, despite the fact that they've actually had a manager change and Jurgen Klopp's just kind of walked in and kept it going for Manchester City. Liverpool in third, you can see they've got EC2, so it would appear that Liverpool have won the League Cup. If we scroll down a bit, yep, there it is. A 2-1 win over Tottenham. Luis Diaz and a Mo Salah penalty. Hassem Aouar got Spurs back in the game. But Liverpool end up winning the League Cup. It shouldn't affect too much because they are looking very set on for Champions League football, so it shouldn't take out this 7th position. We'll see who wins the FA Cup, because last time it did take away 7th. If it's somebody in the top 6 or 7 anyway, it's not going to matter. But we see Newcastle have really dropped off a bit. They are down to 7th, not really fighting Champions League anymore. We're looking at Arsenal and Manchester United for that. Villa are 6th, but they've played a game more. Tottenham only a point behind. Leicester probably too far back. Leeds have slipped as well. They're down to 10th. If we look at the bottom of the table, oh dear. Reading are dead. Reading are gone. Not mathematically gone, but they're gone. We have Palace in big trouble. Is David Moyes still there? Yes, he is. He pulled off it wasn't really a miracle, but it was a pretty impressive escape job last season. Is he going to do it again? It's not looking likely. And then we sort of have Brentford and Sheffield United, though if Sheffield United win their game in hand, Brentford are in quite a bit of trouble. The one side that looks like they're staying up is Norwich. Is the yo-yo thing dead? Are Brentford the new yo-yo club? I don't know what's going on, but Norwich up in 14th. Yeah, Dean Smith's still in charge. We'll have a look at any managerial movements, if there have been any more. There haven't. This has been a very quiet season managerially. Only 3 actual mid-season managerial changes, and we're in April. That is very, very low. We can get back into the stats. We'll start off with team stats as we did before. Chelsea lead the league in goals scored, thanks to primarily Romelu Lukaku. Man City up there as well on 64, quite a way ahead of Spurs, Arsenal and Liverpool. If we look at the expected goals, that's actually led by Liverpool, though it's very tight with Manchester City down the bottom of that. Unsurprisingly, Reading. I mean, only 11 points. Is that less than Derby? That might be tied. I can't remember how many points Derby got, but it's pressing it. Hopefully they don't beat Derby's lack of points record. I was going to say points record, but that makes it sound good. If we go down to some defending as well, Liverpool have actually conceded the least amount of goals now. It was Manchester City, to which I thought it was just a Jurgen Klopp thing. But no, it's a Pep Guardiola thing too, because Liverpool only 20 conceded in 30 games. Man City at 23. Most conceded, unsurprisingly, Reading conceding at a rate of 2 goals a game. And they actually also are on the wrong end of the expected goals as well. Expected 52. They've conceded 60. So maybe they're getting a little bit unlucky, but yeah, they are definitely going down. Brentford up there as well. Palace over the 50 mark as well. If we get to player stats, we're not going to look at appearances because that's just a lot of goalkeepers normally. But we'll start with goals. Romelu Lukaku, 4 clear on 21 in 29 appearances. Wout Weghorst in second because FM loves a tall striker. Speaking of tall strikers, Erling Haaland, 16. We get Vitinha and Alexander Isak on 15. Isak having a very good season in his first season in the Premier League. Vitinha's just been really good for Leeds, by the way. Only 24 years of age. Apparently no interest in him, but 33 goals in 59 Premier League games. He is flying. Harry Kane's actually appeared. He's on 14 goals. And he's got a lot of assists as well. So Kane's having a really, really good season. Kind of like a Havertz season last year. Barbosa's up on 14 for Newcastle. You can see some other names in here as well. Duvan Zapata still scoring at 33. Jimenez with 12 at age 32. Got Ansu Fati chipping in with 11. Vinicius chipping in with 11 in his first season as a Chelsea player. Nikola Vlasic, Timo Werner's even chipping in. He's still getting the odd goal. Havertz with 10. Abo Ruiz in his first season has 10 in 31 for Brighton. Expected goals, Weghorst leads that on a 15 mark. Next highest is only 13 with Erling Haaland. In fact, Lukaku's XG is 10. And he's got 21 goals. How is he outdoing his XG by over double? That is ridiculous. Vegas leading a lot of the shot categories. Lukaku with the lowest average minutes per goal. We then jump to assists. There we go. It's actually led. Mbappe's just decided to lead a different category this season. Won the Golden Boot last year with 25 goals. Has decided he wants the most assists this season. He's on 14. Harry Kane's still in that one on 12. Tielemans has moved back up into third on 11. And then we see Moutinho and Ward-Prowse on 10. João Moutinho now 37 years of age and still producing in the Premier League. He's having a great time. We spot Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall with 7 assists for Norwich. He's having a great time. Moses Simon playing for Sheffield United. He's in there. Szymanski, we mentioned him, signed last season. Yves Bissouma starting to do stuff for Newcastle as well. And Dele Alli, just there for reasons, I guess. Key passes is also led by Mbappe. We see Bruno Fernandes. We actually see Pascal Gross at 32 years of age. Some of the older players are the ones stepping up with the numbers. Fabio Carvalho in his first season as a Brentford player with 46 key passes for him. De Bruyne, just the 6 assists this year. He's dropped off a little bit, but still 45 key passes from him. If we spot chances created, we actually spot a Crystal Palace player. Lewis Cook, in his first season with Palace, probably going to get relegated, but tied for first in chances created in the entire Premier League. So he can feel a little bit unfortunate. He's alongside Bruno Fernandes. Almost said Fernandes. Harry Kane, Kevin De Bruyne is actually up there in this stat, so it's not like it's De Bruyne's fault by the looks of it. It looks like Man City just are going through different routes and not converting his chances. We jump on to conceded. Thiago with a nice deal, only 6 goals conceded, but he's also only appeared 15 times. Tomiyasu still leads tackles won, still by 1 tackle ahead of Johnny of Wolves. Maxwell Cornet in third. Is he playing left back for Burnley? I think Cornet is playing left back. That's a bit of a strange move, but okay. Whatever floats your boat. Burnley might go down with Cornet at left back. Really can't understand that one. Key tackles is not a stat we've really looked at. We've got a few guys in here. Liam Moore, James Justin, Ricardo Rodriguez is playing for Brentford, the Swiss fullback at 31 years of age. He's trying to help Brentford stay up. It's not really going very well. Well, it's going okay, actually, at the moment. Ibanez leads key headers. Interceptions is led by Byron Castillo, Ecuadorian right back with 90 interceptions. James Justin second, Dodo in third for Manchester United. So he's taken over as the first choice right back after the Aaron Wan-Bissaka move about a year and a half ago. Victor Christensen also in here, actually, although he has fractured his arm, so he's missed a few games. But it's good to see United giving... I mean, Dodo's 25, but they are certainly getting a little bit younger and trying to use those players. Boubacar Kamara is actually in here as well after his big money move to Tottenham. Blocks is a 3-way tie between Kufau, Mikalenko, and Kylian Mbappe. What? Mbappe has 33 blocked shots? That is so bizarre. Where's he playing? Is there a way to check? If we look at like reports, that's his form. If we look at stats, can we see positions played? Because I'm really confused as to how he's got a league-tying 33 blocks. I may need someone to tell me in the comments how to actually look up the position that he's been playing throughout the season. I know you can look at it, I just don't know how to find it. Little Wesley Fofana leads the league in clearances with Sebastian Coates, Mark Gay and Rob Holding. Headers won, Harry Maguire, percentage-wise. Frank Kessie with the most fouls in the league. We'll get to the goalkeepers. Conceded, Alisson just 19, Ederson 23 conceded, Onana in third. He's fully taken over as Manchester United's starter, which begs the question, is De Gea still here? He is. But he seemingly signed a contract as a backup and is okay with it. That feels wrong. Although Onana's actually injured at the moment. He got injured on international duty and is going to miss 7 days to 2 weeks. So this is De Gea's chance to actually get some footballing again. If we look at any other goalkeeper stats, clean sheets, Alisson has jumped just a little bit in front of Ederson, 14 to 13. Onana in third with 10. A few guys on 8. Safanov actually on 8. I don't think he was doing very well this year, but he has got a few clean sheets. Angus Gunn saves held and David Raya saves parried. But other than that, I think we can get to the final day of the Premier League season and we'll have a look how it's looking and who's down, who, if Man City have already won the title, which it looks like might happen, and if there's any battles for European places or anything like that. Here we go then, May 19th, the final day of the Premier League season. And for a second year in a row, there's actually more to play for than I expected there to be. The Premier League title is not confirmed again. It comes down to the final day for a second straight season. It's Manchester City again, in the driver's seat again. They host Brighton, who technically could still go down. I don't think they will. But they've technically got something to play for. Man City host Brighton, so they're in the driver's seat. The competition this time is Chelsea. They host Leicester on the final day. Leicester's season is done. They're in 10th. They can move up to 9th, but that doesn't really matter other than prize money. So their season's dead, so Chelsea have a chance there. But Man City, big favourites. Brighton seems like a done deal. Liverpool still third. They'll have Champions League football once again. We will have a look how the Europa League goes. I have a feeling they're probably going to win it. I don't think the final's been yet, but when we wrap up after this game, we'll go through Europe, we'll go through the FA Cup final, and we'll run through the stats of the season, so team stats, player stats. Liverpool in the Champions League. We have a little bit to play for here for the final Champions League spot, of whether it's Manchester United or Arsenal. Manchester United go to Brentford. Brentford have to get a result to stay up. I thought Norwich was safe. I was wrong. Norwich are very much in trouble. They host Newcastle. Sheffield United very much in trouble. They host Liverpool. There may well be no points coming here. And we know Brighton play Manchester City. So the bottom sort of 4 here that could all still go down are playing a bunch of the top teams. I think Brentford are in trouble. And Man United should seal down the 4th spot. The only way that changes is if Manchester United lose and Arsenal beat Wolves, who, again, Everton and Wolves have just kind of been really quiet during this save. Europe-wise, for Europa League and Europa Conference League, there is a little bit of a twist. I did mention the FA Cup. West Ham are in the final again, so they have a chance to protect their FA Cup title. They play Chelsea. So if West Ham win the FA Cup final, they would again get the Europa League spot, which would take away 7th as a European spot. Currently, with it as it stands, 2 of Spurs, Newcastle or Villa would be in Europe. And obviously we don't know how Villa have got on in the Europa Conference League, so they could get Europe. There's a lot to figure out once we get to the end of the season. But we know Spurs, Newcastle and Villa are fighting it out for 6th place. That confirms Europe no matter what. Spurs are hosting Burnley. So Spurs are in a very good position. Burnley are safe. They've had a really good run towards the back end of the season. Sean Dyche still in charge. Weghorst with 20 goals this season. I think Spurs should seal sixth. However, if they do slip up, Newcastle are at Norwich, as we've already mentioned. Norwich may well need a result. They may be okay. We're not sure. Noticeable, Palace already down. David Moyes still in charge, but they are down. Reading, 12 points. Oh, I don't know if we'll be seeing Reading again. It may be a little while before we witness them back in the Premier League. It's not gone well. And Aston Villa will be at Everton, another team whose season is already done and dusted. So my prediction, if I'm putting anything out there, Man City will win the title ahead of Chelsea, just. Man United will get fourth, Spurs will get sixth, and I think Brentford will go down with Palace and Reading. I think that's how we're going to look on the final day, well, after the final day. And so the 2023-2024 season is wrapped up. We're on the 2nd of June. Everything is done with Premier League references anyway. We're going to start with Europe. As you can see, Europa Conference League, Aston Villa actually went out in the quarterfinals to Hoffenheim 4-3. Roma then took out Hoffenheim 4-3. Just a lot of 4-3s. And in the end, Anderlecht are your Europa Conference League winners. A little bit of an out there pick, but they beat Roma in the final. Pretty impressive stuff from them. Roberto Mancini is not joining Spurs, though he does feel that he may not be at the right club. But seemingly no reference to that, so I don't know what's going on with Tottenham. We'll find out, I guess, at the start of next season. But Roma miss out on European glory, and it goes to Anderlecht. Europa League-wise, and it's not too surprising, I did mention that Liverpool would probably win it. They do, although they actually win it over Newcastle. So that would have been Newcastle's way into the Champions League. They miss out. Liverpool had Champions League football anyway, so I'm interested to see how that's going to play relevance into the final league standings and whether that gets Newcastle a Europe spot anyway. We haven't looked at the FA Cup yet. I haven't looked at it, so I don't know who's won that and if West Ham got their route in. We can see it went well for the English sides in the quarterfinals. Liverpool dismantling Valencia 5-0. Newcastle, maybe a little surprisingly, 4-2 over Porto, and West Ham 3-2 over PSV. Newcastle then knock out West Ham 4-2. Whilst Liverpool had actually a bit of a tricky one with Villarreal, ending 3-2 in the end in Liverpool's favour, and then a 2-0 win in the final. We'll have a quick look, considering it had Premier League teams in it. I did mention it'd probably be an English final. We get Sadio Mane, and who on earth is Mateusz Musialowski? Who is this kid? He scored. I mean, good for him. A 90th minute goal to wrap up the Europa League. What a moment for Musialowski. I have no idea who that is, but well done. And finally, the Champions League. And for the 4th season in a row, Manchester City versus Chelsea in the final. And this time, well, it's now 3-1 in Chelsea's favour. Manchester City won it last year, but Chelsea win the Champions League at Wembley 1-0. They came through PSG 5-2, Dortmund 5-2 as well. Manchester City coming through past Barcelona 4-1 and Bayern Munich 2-1. England 2, Germany 0 in the semi-finals. Dortmund with a really good recovery season, by the way, getting to the semi-finals of the Champions League. We didn't really mention them last year at all. Very good season from them. We'll have a quick look at the final. Who was the one goal scorer? It was Kylian Mbappe, probably unsurprisingly. Although Chelsea, look at that! Manchester City really pretty dominant in that game. But Allegri and Chelsea come through, win their 3rd Champions League in 4 years. Look at the top scorers, by the way. Lukaku and Mbappe on 10, Vinicius on 9. That is unbelievable. So the Premier League takes home a Europa League and a Champions League. Chelsea will also be taking an FA Cup. I mean, scoring twice in 2 minutes inside the first 10. Marco Asensio, by the way, playing for Chelsea. £17.25 million move in the first transfer window. Hasn't played a whole lot. When he has, he's been getting better and better. He opened the scoring in the FA Cup final. Lukaku adds the second. Jared Bowen got West Ham back in the game. Rudiger got hurt. But it is Chelsea through, so West Ham's route into Europe gone. No Europe for West Ham. They were getting pretty used to it, but not this time. And finally, the final Premier League table. Manchester City do indeed get themselves a trophy. They win the Premier League. They end up beating Brighton 2-0 on the final day. Goals from Yeremy Pino and Erling Haaland. Did Brighton stay up? Yes, Brighton were pretty safe. Brentford stay up! Oh my words. How have they done that? Where are they? I've lost them. Brentford get a 2-2 draw at home against Manchester United. Pogba made it edgy in the 86th minute with an equaliser. But I almost said Sheffield United. Brentford survive and Norwich do yo-yo. I really thought they were safe. They lose 3-1 to Newcastle and are relegated on the final day. Norwich just cannot find a way to stay up. Sheffield United also 33 points. Look at that. Just a 6-goal difference between 18th and 16th. Sheffield United ended up losing 3-2 to Liverpool. They would have been definitely nervy. They were 2-0 up as well. Harry Wilson and Moses Simon within a minute of each other, but Ansu Fati, Mo Salah and Fabinho turn it around. Alisson with a 5. That's a rare sight. But in the other important bits, looking at Europe, Manchester United, despite only drawing, it was enough. Arsenal did win on the final day. Where were they? They beat Wolves 2-0. They'll have to settle for Europa League, though, next season, after one season back in the Champions League. Manchester United, not even in Europe last season, they return to the elite. Spurs do indeed get Europa League football. They beat Burnley 4-2. And with Chelsea winning the FA Cup, Newcastle will take the Europa Conference League spot. So a Europa League final this year, they lose that. They'll have to deal with Europa Conference League football this time. Villa miss out entirely on Europe. Leeds getting 9th, Leicester 10th is not too bad at all. Any managerial moves? Yes. So actually, this was literally when the season ended. They actually had Marcelo Gallardo lined up as the Atletico Madrid manager in the save, went there in 2023. He joins Spurs, so we'll see Gallardo from next season. No other moves so far. Yeah, very, very quiet managerial transfer-wise. And the final bit that we can do here is get into, not transfers, stats. Now that the season is over, we'll jump into some stats. If we look at goals, Chelsea top the way with 86, but it's just not quite enough to topple Manchester City, who are now four times in a row that they have won the Premier League. I think 6 of the last 7 Premier League titles to Manchester City. XG-wise, Man City lead the way. Chelsea were actually down in 8th with 55 and scored 86 goals. A ridiculous strike force for them. West Ham got 10 penalties, by the way. Scored 9 of them. That's a lot of penalties. Did anyone get none? Liverpool and Everton got 1 penalty each and scored them. Liverpool were only getting 1 penalty. That feels very low. Defensively, it actually ended up being Manchester City and Jurgen Klopp getting another team to concede the least number of goals in a Premier League season. Liverpool 31, Chelsea and Man United at 38. Maybe that's where Chelsea need to go next. I mean, they've created a ridiculous front four, but they need to start actually keeping them out. Edouard Mendy's been decent in goal. He hasn't been amazing. But I don't know too much about Chelsea defensively in this save, so maybe that's their next port of call. Brentford had the most XG against, somehow stay up. What a performance on the final day for them to remain a Premier League team. It's the first time they've stayed up this save-wise. I mean, they're probably going to stay up in real life this year, but they went down in the simulation of this current season in real life. So it's the first time they stay up. Palace go down. Reading, just an abysmal season. Actually, what was their final game? They lost. Reading won one game. I'm pretty sure Derby only won one game as well in their Premier League season. They lost 1-0 at home against West Ham. Oof. Just 12 points. Is that Derby's record? I'm not completely sure. It's close. It's gone very, very wrong. Let's put it that way. I don't think we've got too much else to look at. Clean sheets. Manchester City top the way with 18. I would imagine Edison got all 18 of those. So we'll jump into player stats. And we'll work straight away from goals. The Golden Boot. Congratulations, Romelu Lukaku. 23 goals on the season for him. He takes a Premier League Golden Boot ahead of Wout Weghorst again. So close to a Golden Boot. Doesn't quite happen for him. And Vitinha, he has been absolute magic for Leeds. 38 goals in 2 seasons at Ellen Road. He is looking magic. Calvert-Lewin came up towards the end. He's tied along with Haaland, Barbosa and Kane. Of the new signings, Vinicius and Isaac actually tie for 16 each. They were the 2 biggest transfers of the summer window, so they instantly come in and do well. Sebastian Aller was a new signing for Sheffield United. He bags 14 on his return to the Premier League. Heung-min Son actually does net 14. He appears late on in the season. And Neil Maupay for Norwich, getting 13. Not enough to keep Norwich up, though. As we get into expected goals, Weghorst led the way. Led the way quite convincingly, realistically, actually. 19 expected goals. He ended up bagging 21. So despite doing better than his XG, when he was top of that, he still didn't top the scoring charts. Lukaku, who had a 12.5, scored 23 goals. Just converting everything in this season was Lukaku. Haaland leads shots, with Weghorst leading shots on target. We'll get to assists, and we actually have a tie for most assists in the season. It's Harry Kane and Kylian Mbappe. 2 names you're more used to seeing at the top of the Golden Boot charts than the assists. Though, big shout out, Christian Eriksen. 32 years of age, 13 Premier League assists in just 35 games, 3 less than Kane and Mbappe. Amazing season from Eriksen. Tielemans up there as well, level with Ward-Prowse, who was Tielemans' replacement for Leicester. So, interesting to see them matching in numbers there. Mane in double figures, along with Moutinho and Rafinha. Love Moutinho being in there at 37 years of age. Kylian Mbappe leading key passes. He gets 71. Bruno Fernandes. Marcus Rashford. First time we've really mentioned Rashford in this save. He's up at 75 Premier League goals now in his career. He's had 8 and 7 in the 2 actual simulation seasons that we've really looked at. But does pop up with 9 assists this year. So it's good to see that he is doing well. He's just not really statistically up there at the moment. If we get into key passes per 90 led by James Maddison. Chances created, Bruno Fernandes tops that with 27. Wow. He really flew ahead at the end. Lewis Cook's still in second. Poor guy going down after his first season with Crystal Palace, after trying to get Bournemouth promoted for 2 seasons. Harry Kane and Kai Havertz in there for that one as well. We look at defensively. We can get to what stats do we want to look at? Key tackles. James Justin leads the way with 10 ahead of Enrique Dodo. Dodo, Johnny, and Jan Bednarek, actually, who was in his first season with Wolves. Josko Vardiol there as well, who's in his first season with Manchester United. Key headers, there was a tie between Roger Ibanez and Sebastian Coates. Interceptions leader is a relegated Byron Castillo with 111, ahead of Josip Stanisic, a Croatian defender for Brentford, who is now wanted by Blackburn. Maybe Blackburn have come back up. We don't know. We'll find out at the beginning of the next season, which will be in the next video, which hopefully should be out in a few days' time, unless you're watching this way in the future, and then it's already out. Vitaly Mykolenko leading in blocks with Baldock and Mbappe. I really don't know why Mbappe has so many blocks, but okay. Frank Kessie ends up leading the league in fouls. Finally, we will round out with goalkeepers. We won't look at conceded because that is, or we will. It's slightly off. Juan Musso ended up coming in January and playing 16 games, so only concedes 22. Ignore him. Ederson really takes that crown, just 28 conceded, but he also takes the Golden Glove for clean sheets ahead of Alisson, 18 to Alisson's 16. Onana gets the bronze medal there with 12. David Raya with saves. Two players actually in saves held are Angus Gunn and Nick Pope. And I think that is about it for the 2023-24 season. Liverpool get a Europa League and a League Cup. Manchester City get a Premier League and a Community Shield, I believe. Chelsea get a Champions League and an FA Cup. So a little bit of sharing of the trophies, but it's still that big three. They've almost split themselves away from the likes of Man United, Arsenal and Tottenham. We have a big three in the Premier League right now. Can anyone break into that next season? And can we get a couple sides that come up actually survive? Because we only seem to be getting one per season. Though Sheffield United will be entering a third Premier League season. Just. Brentford get a second go at it. So hopefully they can both stay up, but then again, I did say I wanted the new sides to stay up, so maybe I don't want them to stay up. I don't know. I've made a very confusing ending here. If you have enjoyed the video, please hit the like button, comment, share, anything else you feel like would help with getting the videos out there. I know they are quite long, but as I sort of mentioned previously, they're more podcast style. You don't necessarily have to watch the video intently. It's more just a broad overview kind of thing, just to see what's happening. But if you have enjoyed it, yeah, as I've said, just any support you can provide is much appreciated. And we'll be back, hopefully pretty soon, with the 2024-25 season. I think there's going to be a lot of changes, but I think we've kind of got a Monopoly 3 in Manchester City, Chelsea, and Liverpool.